Hey guys, and welcome to Top Channel 101. So today we're going to be looking at how to create a geometry nodes damage generator using, of course, geometry nodes. This is going to be a beginner's course teaching you the basics of geometry nodes and also mixed in with some intermediate and advanced pieces or advanced parts. But I'll try to keep it as simple as possible, explaining most of the things. And you can see the nodes we're using here are not that many. I think we're using like at most 10 nodes, but most of them are just repeated, duplicated nodes. So yeah, most of them are just duplicated or reused in other areas. So maybe we're using like 5 unique nodes and the others are just repeated on top of that. So let me show you how this works. So we have this mesh here, and if I remove the nodes, you can see it's just a simple cube stretched out like this. And if you add the node setup, you can see it adds damage, and you have these controls that can control the amount of damage. These are all exposed parameters, you can see, and you can animate this obviously. So if you wanted, I can animate the damage there. And I also have this resolution, damage resolution, that if you want to make this a bit faster, you can reduce the resolution down so that you can see the results much faster. And maybe if you get the damage you want, you can basically bring up the resolution back up so you get that nice detail in there. Okay, let me bring this down just a bit so that I can show you some of the parameters we're working with. You can control the scale of the damage. There's a lot of things you can adjust here, and if you go to the node setup, there are still a lot of other parameters that you might want to expose. I just expose. I like to keep my interface a bit simpler. That's why you see I'm not exposing as many parameters that I could expose. So for example, if you can play with let me turn on wireframe so that you can see how this is being done here. You can see if I change any of these parameters, I can end up with a completely different results. We could do anyway. Let's jump into the geometry nodes into a new project and see how we can do this. I'm going to be using 3.4, which is the new version of Blender that has just been released. So let's see what we can do. So I'm going to start with let me switch to geometry nodes and also turn on my shortcuts here. Where is that shortcut so that you can see what I'm using? I'll put them on the left there. Okay, so we're going to start with a cube. This is going to hold our geometry nodes modifier. So let's add a new geometry nodes modifier. I'm just going to do this here. So what we're going to do, we're going to add damage depending on the angle of the edge. So you can see this is an edge here. Let me turn on wireframe a bit here, and maybe turn on wire cavity and random colors so that you can see. Let me just start off. You just have cavities so that you can see the edges more clearly. So we have this edge here that connects this face to this face by this angle, using an angle here. So that angle is what we're going to be used. So we want to have a threshold because we don't want damage everywhere. We want damage on the edges because that's where you will normally see damage on anything. It is those sharp edges they get collided with, and then damage happens. So to do that, we're going to first separate those edges, isolate them, and then yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to let me add a few extra vertices, and maybe just to show you what I'm talking about. So we have this, and we can do a delete geometry, and we want to just isolate the edges. The edges that are sharp, basically, that have a sharp angle. So let's use a near edge angle. And if you're using geometry nodes, if you're using 3.4, you can preview those edges using the viewer node. And assigned, I think I just use this, and I can use because these are in if we look at let me see, this is the viewer so this if these are in radians, so we can change this to degrees. Yeah, we can change these to the angle, the edge angle is in radians, so we want to change it to degrees so that it's easier to understand. So I'm going to use the math node and just have it here. I'll change this and use the 2 degrees option. And you can see now we have degrees here. Then what I'm going to 2 degrees. Then what I'm going to do, I want to compare these. Use a compare node. Just because I want to select I want to select only the sharp edges. So what I'm going to do is just come here. I can remove this viewer node and bring this here. I want to delete only the edges beyond a certain edge angle. So so you can see what we are getting. We have deleted all the sharp edges, and if I compare this to the original, you can see we are keeping this edge, and maybe let's do this. Let's bring back the original geometry with a join geometry here, so that we can see what is going on. I will just this is just to demonstrate what is happening. So I can scale this down. So scale elements, using the scale elements. So you can see the edges that are being selected. So the edges that are being selected are edges that are known in sharp areas. So we can do the opposite, because right now this is selecting, let me first isolate this. This is selecting simply the edges that are not sharp, and we want the opposite. So instead of greater than, I can use maybe less than, and that should select the sharp edges or the corner edges that we want. And we don't need this anymore. So with these edges, I think we can even increase the threshold, because I didn't want that edge there. So something like that. Now what we're going to do is add instance some geometry onto these lines, and then we can use that to cut into the original geometry. Let me show you what I mean. So these are lines, meshes. I want to convert them to our curve, to mesh to curve, so that we have just curves like that. Then we can use a curve to points, because we want to instance some geometry that we are going to use to cut into to use as the Boolean object into the original mesh. So I'm going to use the length so that we have the same distance on these points. So they all have the same distance, and we can use these points as instances. So I can instance on points, instance on points like this, and we can keep this very simple by using something like a cube as our object. Maybe scale it down a bit like that. And now if we bring in our Boolean mesh Boolean, yes, with the operation of difference, we can use the original geometry and subtract the cubes. You can see we have damage, but it's blocky and non-organic, and there is separation, even separation, which is not what we want. So what we can do is come here and first randomize the rotation, random value, use the random value and randomize the rotation. I'm going to use a vector and use 360 on here. So the rotation of the instances is random. Let me make sure that I'm saving this. So you can see how we're starting to get what we want. And another thing I would like to do at this stage is just add in some material. I'm going to go to my texture folder and search for a concrete material. Yeah, something like, I don't know. I'll use something like this, and also create another, because I want the inside the Boolean parts to have a different material. So I will use maybe something like this. But for that, I need that to be applied to the Boolean part. So I'm going to come here and use a set material and just select that second material, which is concrete 2, and you can see what we have. Let me come back to this material just to make sure that everything is exactly. Yeah, so you can see how things are starting to come to life. Yeah, so we have that, but this still doesn't look very organic. So let's try and make the damage more organic. So I'm going to first disable this Boolean or just bypass it. So we look at just the Boolean pieces, the instances. So they look like this. I still want to randomize a few things like the scale. So I'm going to duplicate this random value and just put that in, and just let's see. We can just have this set to a value of 1, something like that. And we want to expose the scale value so that we have control over the scale. So I'm going to use a vector math so that I can multiply this random value with a scale. So I can scale this down if I want, just like that, and I can expose this parameter here, and that's the first parameter we have exposed. Now, again, this type of geometry doesn't really produce the organic geometry we want. So what we're going to do is convert this into a volume. So we can use a mesh to volume, a mesh to volume, a mesh to volume node that will convert this to the volume. So if yours doesn't show, I'm using 3.4, which means that maybe some things have been changed, because in 3.3 connecting the instances directly to the volume, because these are instances, they wouldn't work. You might have to realize instances first, and actually I think we need to do that for this as well. So you might have to realize, because if I don't have the realize, these are treated as separate volume objects, which is not what we want. We want it to be a single volume object without too much separation. So if I undo this, you can see they kind of merge into one single volume object, and that's what we want. You want to have these realized instances there. So we have something like that, and now we can convert this back to a mesh. So volume to mesh like this, and now we can see we have a much more organic volume that we can use for the Boolean. So let me first disconnect this and have this connected, and then you can see now we have some damage that looks like this. We need to bring back this set material back this side, so we have damage like that. One other thing we need to do is if you look at our instances before we add the let me see the random rotation. If I mute these for a second, anyway, before we added the random scale and random, you see they're evenly distributed, so each point has a cube, which could work, but we want to have that organic feel, so we don't want that we don't want to have them equally distributed like that. So what I'm going to do is add another random value, but this time we want to get the Boolean. This will just select randomly what blocks show. So at 0 we have nothing, and then we can use this to control the damage amount. And let me also expose this as damage. You can name these, so I can name this as damage amount like that, and I can use this to control how much of these points we have. And we also have, if we go to the length, we can also increase the number of points we have. So I can also add that in. So this can increase the number of points we have. like that. And we can bring back the random rotation and random scale in here. And let's see how that. Okay, so with this damage amount, I can control how much damage I have in here, which I think is nice. And the scale we have here can control the scale of the damage. Like that. And the length, we can use this to add more damage to the wall. So something like this, maybe reduce even the scale further. It doesn't seem like we can scale it down to this any further, and that's because we converted this to volume, and the volume is also having an impact, adding volume to the mesh, to the original mesh. So we need to be able to change the voxel amount here, I think, to control. Let me just look at this separately. So if we play with the even the density could be used as a parameter if we wanted to, but let me just leave it to 1. Can control the voxel amount. And let me turn on wireframe so that you can see what is going on. Basically, this is adding more resolution. And you can expand. This can also help us reduce the thickness of the damage. But there's quite a lot of parameters you can expose here that could do the same thing. Let's see. You can change this to size, and that means we can play with. Actually, let me leave it to grid here. And maybe expose this bandwidth, and just duplicate this here and expose the bandwidth as well, so I can control that here. If we look at now the final thing, we can see we can control how thin this damage can be, but it's still lacking something. If you can see, because if you look at it in here, it looks a bit too sharp. So if you have the CPU for it, you can add a subdivision surface node here, and that should smoothen things out a bit. And you can even expose the level of detail here, and that should make this more smooth, make the damage more smooth, like that. You can even further go on, since you have the resolution after adding the subdivisions, we can add some noise to this. So let's first look at this here. We can add some noise to this by using a set position here, and this just changes the position. But if we have a normal node like this, and insert that into the offset, it kind of pushes everything out a bit, like inflates the volume, or inflates our mesh a bit, which is, and we can use a vector math, and use the scale operation to scale how inflated this. It's like pumping air into our volume, like that. But instead of using just a float value here, a single value here, we can use a noise texture, basically to displace everything randomly. And I can also bring this back here. Should I bring it here? Let me see. And we can also add another math node here. Math. to amplify the noise amount. And also we can add another scale node here to scale up that noise. So if I remove this for a bit, let me see how much noise do we need for this. So just adding some distortion to this. And then this would go into here, and this would be our Boolean. If things start to disappear like that, it's usually because there is a lot of intersection as a result of this setup here, this noise modifier. So we can try and bring the scale down here. Or before we do anything, before we use this as the Boolean, we can merge by distance so that we avoid any intersection. Merge by distance. And just to make things much faster, I'm going to reduce the subdivision level down a bit so that my viewport is a bit faster. And I can use a merge by distance here. And the distance could, let's see. Let's first look at this. Yeah, something like that. And we have damage. Again, we can scale it up, but these issues are usually because of what we are doing under this, trying to add noise. So this noise could be a bit troublesome. So you need to be a bit careful with that. Maybe increase this even further if you want, so that we get rid of. So maybe you can expose this parameter, the merge distance, so that you can easily tweak it in case you get any issues, because it will counter those issues. And yeah, we still have all these parameters to play with, like controlling the amount of damage on the block, the scale of the damage. Like that. Amount of damage. Separation of the blocks. And what you could also do is add set shade smooth, set shade smooth for the Boolean interior there. Now we can play with this merge distance. Yeah, you can apply this to a new object. Let me just make sure that I link these materials here. So if we have a cube, we can add that modifier. Copy modifiers. I can see we already have some damage to that, and I can have this as, say this was a wall. You can see how you can make a simple plane that you can reduce the probability of damage, maybe scale up the damage a bit, increase the level, reduce the, let's see, basically you have quite a lot of control, and you can build on top of that. And remember, this is still procedural, so you can make your changes. Okay. You might want to disable the modifier a bit, and then again, if you see any of these issues, you can play with the merge distance to get rid of that. And yeah, basically that's it. If you like content like this, you might want to check out my Blender Everything page website. So if you go to blendereverything.com, you can yeah, if you want any free geometry nodes modifiers, you can go to Blender Everything. Links are in the description. You can download some free models, free geometry nodes, a lot of content there. And yeah, and also be sure to check out Simply Cloth Pro, which is an amazing library of clothes for your character. If you want, for your characters, if you want to dress up your characters, this is an amazing add-on. You can see they have a ton of clothes that you can choose from and modify to make them your own. And basically, and there is a good video, a good tutorial on here that shows you how you can dress up your character. You can see how their shoes, garments, any type of garment you can think of. This is the add-on for you. There's also this amazing add-on called Shipwright, which just basically enables you to generate ships, different styles, and add plating. Basically, if you want to anything sci-fi, this add-on, check out this add-on. Yeah, so if you are generous and you want to support the channel, make sure to buy any of these add-ons. I'm an affiliate. You'll get value out of them, and I'll also get something out of it. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. See you. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notification, all that amazing stuff. And I'll see you in the next tutorial. Shankaya.